Hello everyone and welcome to today's Opsview webinar. The theme is monitoring cloud and modern technologies using Opsview, and joining me today is Brent, one of our senior pre-sales engineers. So he's going to walk you through how Opsview can help you monitor these technologies. We are recording the session, so we will send this out to you tomorrow for all of those that have business email addresses in the system. So Brent, over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to talk about monitoring cloud and modern technologies with Opsview. We'll take the next 20 minutes or so. What I'll do is kind of go over some slides of what we cover, how we cover it, and then we'll jump into the demonstration system, and I'll show you some of the things we can do with Kubernetes, Azure, Amazon, some of the other technologies that are out there. So we'll go ahead and get started. You can see the Opspacks that we have available. So if you're not familiar with Opsview and how we structure some of our functionality, we have a bundle of the service checks or plugins that you use to monitor into an Opspack. It's kind of a shrink wrap knowledge. It gives you the ability to monitor a certain technology without necessarily being a deep expert in there, you know, a certified architect or something in one of those categories. So it's hopefully an 80-20 type proposition where we give you the majority of what you would want to monitor with some default thresholds to it, and we'll show a little bit of that, how that looks. And it's kind of an exercise of just configuring and optimizing the different checks and making it meaningful for your organization. So here you can see a kind of representation of cloud, Amazon, Google Cloud, Azure, Kubernetes, Salesforce, lots of different functionality out there that we can cover. And we take this quite seriously. We have a dedicated team that supports our Opspacks. And if there's some sort of a technology that comes out there, certainly let your account manager know, let your support representative know what you're working on, what you're trying to get value out of, and that Opspack team can really jump on some of those new technologies. Certainly, if it's a specific technology only to your company, no other organizations can use that. We won't be so have the ability to create that at no cost, but certainly there's consulting engagements, and you can basically rent out that same Opspack team to do some custom work as you need it. So looking specifically at Kubernetes Opspack, this is one of our newer ones, and kind of a representation of when technology comes out, it's ubiquitous in the marketplace. We like to have a coverage on that, both for our existing customers and getting value out of that, and potential new customers. There's use cases built around, a certain technology and making sure you have monitoring for that. As you likely know, Opsview is a bit of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to monitoring. We can do just about anything, whether it's your on-premise infrastructure, it's a co-located data center, it's a cloud, public or private. We have great coverage from there. So Kubernetes, we can look at things like cluster metrics, pod metrics, node metrics, and bubble that all up into the same console and give you a common view. So your traditional on-premise infrastructure next to Kubernetes, next to your cloud subscriptions as they're out there, you can put those all into the same common look and feel, single version of the truth, basically. So looking a bit further, Microsoft Azure, so the breadth of coverage. So it's not just, it's simple compute. We actually get into some of the applications that are hosted there. So Redis, SQL database, even some IoT type checks that we offer along there. These host templates are quite comprehensive. And again, it's hopefully a good match for what you're looking for. If you go to our website and look at the Opspack page, basically you can Google Opsview Opspack and our page will come up. You can take a look at the different metrics that are out there for each one of these if you want to get a bit more information on each of those. And then what we can do with those checks is we can create these dashboards. So kind of representation here of a kind of a navigator view with all the different technologies and what's being monitored. And then we can actually create dashboards around those. So we're looking at some of the volumes. I'll bring this up live. We'll take a look. But if you want to keep track of those individual metrics in a common console. So as you know, we can create dashboards quite easily in Opsview and give you that customized view, either specific to the technology domain or generally across a support team. So we have a dashboard I'll show you that tracks all the public cloud vendors all on the same page. So each vendor has certainly its ability to pull up that information in their proprietary consoles, but be it a SaaS service like Office 365 here, or kind of an infrastructure provider, AWS EC2 or something, this information can be portrayed quite simply in a dashboard as well. Okay, so moving across here. So AWS, just an example of implementation. These are literally the steps off of the configuration page. Add the host template, configure the variables, and apply the changes. Basically, you get pretty simple, well-documented steps to implement these. And as long as you have your subscription IDs and your account information, this should be pretty straightforward to configure. And multiple subscriptions can be accounted for, so you can create multiples of these checks based on that subscription basis, and then report on those or put a dashboard around each one of those as your requirements are laid out. And finally, just kind of I guess a snapshot here of Google Cloud and what we can do there with a kind of looking at some of the metrics coming in. Really kind of a monitoring depth here that we can give you. So not just a single metric, but multiple metrics around that individual compute instance as well. PostgreSQL, MySQL, storage, compute, you name it. And just kind of a snapshot here of what we do for GCP. Here's the different service check names, the description of those checks, and then some default thresholds as well. So, and then the unit of measurement. So that is kind of the gist of what we do for some of those technologies. I thought what I'd do now is jump into the demonstration system, kind of take a look around there. Certainly, if you have questions, please post those, and we'll review those and answer those towards the end. So please feel free to submit your questions, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. Okay. So as we look at kind of a higher level view here, we've got a dashboard. So if we want to look at a public cloud, I think I mentioned this one. So we're looking at Azure CPU. We're looking at AWS CPU, GCP CPU. So everything together, this could be any metric that you want. These are drag and drop simple. So each dashboard is highly configurable. You have a library of these that you can literally move these over and start to show these. So some different visualization abilities there. Network map that we can lay out things. If we look at, let's see, I'll go this way. Office 365, we showed a little sample of this one, but this is email activity. So if you want to see what those are, exchange email, emails read, emails received. You see big spikes or drops here. Maybe that's interesting to kind of investigate and see exactly what's happened there. Hashtags, I hadn't mentioned that, but you may be familiar with these. It's just kind of a logical grouping of the technologies. So here I've simply created Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, Skype, hashtags, and then you can actually drill into those and see exactly what the status is. So this service check is okay, Skype is operational at that point. So fairly straightforward to get to those. That's a real nice way to group some of this technology. Maybe it's not, you're not slicing it by technology, maybe it's by customer or internal support team. All the infrastructure, the on-premise infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure that is supporting that customer could be a hashtag. You can then certainly display here. You can run reports based on that. I'll show you a sample of a report. Also downtime. So if a customer is going to be offline or some maintenance work or something, you can set a a downtime management for that customer, and can be kind of suppress those alerts as needed. And here, kind of looking at some of the storage measurements. So SharePoint Exchange looks like we're running a little high on SharePoint, OneDrive as well, and then various events. And then the ability to say, cloud services are great, but what if you can't reach them? If your link out to those are saturated, we can actually give you NetFlow data as well. That is a network analyzer module on our on-premise version, and it is included on our cloud version. So of course, Opsview is delivered in two primary formats, primarily the Opsview Cloud solution, centrally hosted by Opsview, and you get to take advantage of our expertise and our SMEs, making sure your instance is up and running and you're getting full value. But certainly if you have your requirements to run on-premise, we have that as well, and that's where a network analyzer module would be an add-on to that. But certainly I talked to your account manager and would be happy to work with you if you want to move from on-premise to cloud, or start with cloud, or start with on-premise. We're happy to help you in any way. Okay, and then another feature here is the ability to take that same information, kind of the same version of the truth, but this is actually a process map. It's just a JPEG image. I think I found it online, and we can drag and drop our service icons on top of it. So an application owner or customer probably knows their application in terms of some sort of a logical picture like this. If they've got that, you can actually instrument it. These are quite simple to move around or create any one you want, either a hashtag, a host group, a host, service check, even a performance metric, kind of measuring some of that availability. This is can be quite useful. If this is just general system monitoring, can also be application specific. So what's the cache hit ratio for the database doing? Layer another service icon there over the instance. So this can get quite useful for customers. Okay, still kind of continuing across the top here. Kubernetes, here's an idea of same hashtags, the different counters and gauges that may be important to you. Ephemeral storage, file descriptors, any metrics that would be interesting. These are fairly straightforward to customize. So if I look at cluster process, it's done by any host that we currently have monitored, any service check that's there, and then the metrics underlying those service checks. And then you can add those in. Some of the options are timeframes and chart styles and other things like that, refresh intervals. So very, very simple to create these. This probably would take, if you knew all the metrics that you wanted to display, this has got quite a few of these, maybe 10 minutes to create this, dragging and dropping. A more simple one, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So they get pretty simple to create. And then I didn't mention, but you can actually share those out as well. So I can share my dashboard out to others. So that can go out as a link. I can send it as an email, and you basically assign those to the roles of people that they want to see that information. As you are aware, Opsview is role-based and context-sensitive. We can secure that down to an individual system and individual service check for that person. And then you can see here kind of a subtle difference. There's a little lock symbol next to this dashboard. That means it's been shared to me, and I would have limited ability to change this. I've created this one, and I can change whatever I want. And you can control the ability to create, or what my library of those dashlets are that are operational for me. Okay. As far as virtualization, I think you're probably getting the idea here. Lots of abilities to look at that information kind of side by side with on-premise information, with virtual information, and public cloud. I think we talked about this one. I added this one in. And that all comes together when you start to put together more operational dashboards for kind of support teams, where they can look at all this information together with the BSM summaries, the ability to vertically map those systems together as well. So very straightforward to create these. Okay, I will also take a look at a graph. The information from GCP is displayed here, and you can see these graphs as I pull those up. I've saved this one. We have a number of kind of a library. So you can do these ad hoc. You can pull them up and design those ad hoc. You can save these out, and then you can share those as you want. A really nice feature of this as well is the ability to download this. So if you run a graph and it's some sort of a triage function that you're running through, you can actually save this out, send it in an email. You can save the data that's behind that into a CSV file. You can also copy this to a dashboard. So if we click here, the last dashboard we had open, we should see that populated in. You can see that performance graph behind that. So that should be GCP instance as well. So the ability to quickly link those disciplines together. And then certainly you can adjust this as you need. Okay. And then reports, certainly everything here is available as a report. We utilize Jasper reports, open source module. So if you have someone in your team that's familiar with customizing these, this should be pretty straightforward to slice and dice these reports up. But we start with kind of textual information. Here's the actual metrics, the actual values to that. And as we scroll through those, you see kind of a library of everything, as well as some of the graphical type reports here. So as you scroll through, this is a pretty big one, 66 pages. But again, you can pull these up ad hoc as I've done here, or you can actually schedule these out and have those send out on your behalf. Monday morning for kind of a triage report, what happened over the weekend, what happened last week. We have daily, weekly, monthly reports on events, on performance, on service levels. Each one of those with lots of abilities to save the visualizations, put that into a some sort of a format for folks to read the data, the report. It's a PDF. It's push it to a SharePoint site, push it to an FTP site. Lots of ways to accomplish that. Okay, so I think the last thing I want to show you is let's dig down into some of the monitors themselves, and I'll show you some of the functions. So this is our traditional navigator view, kind of seeing what's monitored, what the actual status is now. So if we look at virtualization, we see things like the ESXi server. If I highlight one of those, we can actually look at the metrics behind that. So vSphere data store, disk usage, I think it is, and what's been happening over time on that, pretty flat consumption there. Day, a week, a month, a year, we see a big drop there. Some of the CPU and more dynamic information is probably more telling, but that's the ability to see that. So we see some things in error. We have some data store errors here. Maybe that's something worth checking into. It did come in as a warning, so that's more on the preventative side. It's trending. It's something you want to take a look at, not a critical state at that point. Here is a critical state. There's some health issues as reported by vSphere, and it looks like the system board trouble on this particular server, this instance at least. Okay, so virtualization there. If I take a look at the public cloud information and Amazon, so it's not just performance metrics with Amazon. We know that a large portion of using an Amazon subscription is paying the bill. So we actually have included some of the credit balances, credit usages, and you can keep a track on there and set thresholds around that as well. So that's also quite useful, is to put that all into the same context. So instance checks and network packets and disk writes, everything together there. And again, just a click away to get utilization information, kind of graph that out a day, a week, a month, a year, and you can see kind of the ability to drill down and say, we were running a lot higher in these areas. How has it changed over time? Okay. And then I think containers I want to show you. So Kubernetes, same gist, and that's really the focus, is put it into a common console, let folks look at advanced technologies, cloud technologies, alongside with traditional monitoring for individual systems, agent-based or agentless. Number of service checks per server is entirely up to you. Opsview is a host-based licensing mechanism, so as long as you have the host, you can do just about what you want. You can use any of our Opspacks for no additional charge. A lot of other vendors will charge for management packs or smart plugins or things along those lines. It's all pretty understandable and easy to utilize with Opsview. So, and as far as kind of unique things that we can monitor, I thought this one was kind of interesting. On the environmental side, we have a service check actually that is monitoring some solar panels. So we're actually, one of our staff here at Opsview has solar panels, and we're actually looking at the generation of the power on his panels. So here you see nighttime hours, not a whole lot of wattage being put out in the middle of the night on those panels. But as soon as the sun comes up, you see, and this kind of shows you some trending abilities, some analysis of what we can show you with these metrics. So we get up to almost 3 kilowatts there. And then if we look over a week, you can certainly see day and night, and a month, go out to a year, and we can see, here's winter time, here's summertime. So, much better production in the summertime than the winter time for obvious reasons, cloud cover and storms and, snow over the panels, things of that nature. But kind of an interesting use of, monitoring technology to kind of show you that out-of-band information as it portrays itself in a monitoring tool and that visualization. So any kind of seasonality to your workloads that you're monitoring in your environments, this would be the same way to display that, but just an interesting way to look at it with solar power usage. Okay, so Helen, is there questions that have come in, or we want to shift over to seeing if we can answer some specific questions that might have come up?
Hey, Brent, thank you for that. Really interesting. We have quite a few questions that have come through on the chat. I think you've answered one as we went through, which was, the question was, are the Opspacks part of our subscription? And I think you answered it and said yes, and they're free as well.
Exactly, yeah, that's a real benefit of Opsview, is that you can monitor just as much as you want. You can use, certainly the Opspacks, any of the open source plugins that you'll find out there, written for Nagios or some of the other tools out there. We can actually use those, kind of a drag and drop affair. You put those on your orchestrator, and we can use those at no additional cost to your licensing.
Great, thank you, Brent. Next question. Their subscription is on 5.4.2. Do they have full access to all of the latest Opspacks?
Good question. Some of these, so if I go out to opsview.com, actually I look at Opsview Opspacks, you'll see some drop-down menus here. So this ability to say Opsview version. So here's any version, and then some that are specific to cloud instance, 6.3, 6.2, 6.1. And I know some of these have a 6.0 prerequisite. So as I open one of those up, let's see, so requires Opsview Cloud or 6.3. So I'd encourage you to contact your support team with Opsview and see what it's going to take to get you upgraded. Would love to have you as an Opsview Cloud customer where we can look after your instance, but certainly more than willing to support you in your upgrade path internal to your organization. A lot of organizations will have specific requirements that they can't necessarily take advantage of a remotely hosted service or a cloud service as well. So either way you want, we can support you.
Hey, thanks, Brent. We've got more questions coming in. I'm not sure we're going to get to all of these. Here's another one. Will you release a more up-to-date agent soon?
So the agent is largely, we support the industry agent, the NRPE or NS Client++. So we don't necessarily do that, kind of support work of it. We just maintain the compatibility. But I'd be interested to hear, maybe we can follow up with you offline and hear what you're looking for in that. You're definitely our eyes and ears. So your requests, very much are valuable to us, so we want to hear that. So maybe we can follow up on that one, Helen.
Yep, I can certainly do that. Next question, let's whiz through these next two. Does Opsview now include built-in ways to register, deregister instances as they come and go under, say, auto scale?
So we do have, a pretty robust API where we can, make changes to the monitoring. We can provision or deprovision. And in fact, if there's something in a remote repository like a CMDB, we can use that. I think we are still working on how fast we can do that. It does require certainly save changes, apply changes, or formerly known as reload. So again, we'll probably look at your requirements there, but we have a fully functional API. We love to read things out of external sources and be able to pull that in through CMDBs, but we'll just have to look at what kind of a time frame you're looking for, what kind of a time scale to do that in.
Okay, and then a follow-on question from the same person. Does Opsview support auto-discovery of instances, etc., under an AWS or an Azure or a Google Cloud account?
Yeah, so let me show you here. We have an auto monitor technology. So here's an instance for, Azure tenant ID, subscription ID, app ID, and secret key. You can start the scan. It brings in the information from there. So auto monitor actually sets the ability to monitor those. We also have auto discovery where you can find what's out there. And we can do network VMware and Windows scans as well. So we are working on that. We have the ability on Azure to do it. I think we're still working on Google and probably AWS, not necessarily in that order, probably AWS first. Okay.
Hey, thank you, Brent. I think those are all the questions that we've got at the moment, unless there's anybody sneaking a last-minute question in right now. For those that joined a little bit late, you won't have missed any session. We've recorded it and we'll be sending out the recording for you tomorrow. So you'll get to see the first session that you missed. No more questions, Brent. So Brent, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing that information and knowledge with us. Thank you to everyone that's joined us. And we look forward to seeing you on next week's webinar as well. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.